I held the documents in my hands, proof of their lies. The truth was finally out, and I knew this moment would change everything. They couldn't stop me now. Some people say family is everything. I used to believe that too, until everything I did for them became the chain that held me back. My name is Emily Hart, and for as long as I can remember, I've been the one who took on the responsibility. Not just for myself, but for my entire family. Ever since my father passed away when I was just a teenager, I've been the pillar that held everything up. My mother, Donna Hart, an elegant woman with an insatiable taste for luxury, was never the most financially responsible person. And then there's Liam Hart, my brother, whose charm masked a deep sense of entitlement. Growing up in a small town, we didn't have much, but I worked hard, very hard, to make something of myself. It wasn't just about my dreams anymore. It was about supporting them. After years of paying off my brother's debts, covering my mother's spa treatments, and managing the household's expenses, I barely had enough to save for myself. But it all changed when I got an email one evening. It was an opportunity I dreamed of for years, a senior position at Marshall and Reed International in New York. It was everything I had worked for, the kind of job that could change my life. I was thrilled, but there was a catch. I had to leave my family behind. The decision weighed heavily on me, but I thought, this is it. This is my chance to finally build a future that's all mine. I printed the flight confirmation, feeling a rush of excitement. But when I walked into the house that night, everything was off. The lights were dim and Donna's car was in the driveway. I wasn't expecting her to be home. She usually spent her evenings sipping wine and watching reality shows. The silence was unsettling, and as soon as I entered, she flicked on the light, her face grim. "We need to talk," she said, her voice carrying a familiar note of authority. "What's wrong?" I asked, already feeling the tension. "I canceled your flight," she said, almost casually. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. "What?" I said, disbelief rising in my throat. "I told them there was a family emergency. You can't leave right now. We need you here," she added, taking a sip of her wine. Behind her, I could hear Liam laughing from the kitchen. He strolled into the living room, a smug grin on his face. "Perfect timing, sis. The car payment is due next week. You're still covering that, right?" My heart sank. 6 years. 6 years of giving up my time, my money, my future to keep this family afloat, and this was the thanks I got? But it wasn't just that, it was the fact that I had been manipulated for so long, all in the name of family. And now, when I finally had a chance to live my life, they pulled the rug out from under me. "You had no right," I managed to say, my voice barely above a whisper. "I had every right," Donna snapped back, her eyes narrowing. "I'm your mother. This family comes first, always." My blood boiled. This family? This wasn't a family, it was an anchor holding me down, preventing me from flying, from moving forward. The days after Donna's cold, calculated decision to cancel my flight were some of the hardest of my life. I had always known, on some level, that my family was never truly invested in me pursuing my own dreams. But to have that truth shoved in my face so suddenly was a shock. I didn't just feel hurt, I felt trapped. The silence in the house became suffocating. My own room, which I used to think of as a sanctuary, now felt more like a prison cell. The walls that once comforted me now felt like they were closing in. And every step I took in the house reminded me of how much I had given up, how much I had sacrificed for them. I knew the situation wasn't healthy for me, but, like most people in dysfunctional families, I couldn't just walk away from the responsibility. I had been supporting Donna and Liam for 6 long years, and despite how much they took from me, part of me felt like it was my job to keep holding things together. But after that night, when Donna casually informed me she had canceled my future, canceled my escape, it was the last straw. I needed to know the full extent of the damage. So I started digging. I didn't expect what I found. Bank statements. I scrolled through transaction after transaction. Thousands of dollars that had gone from my account directly into paying for Liam's car insurance, for Donna's credit card bills, for house maintenance that I had paid for without question. I'd been draining my savings while they continued their lifestyle of luxury and entitlement. But that wasn't the worst of it. I opened up my utility accounts. I had been paying for the electricity, water, internet, and cable all in my name. I had kept the house running, yet I had no legal obligation to do so. The more I looked, the angrier I became. And then I saw it. The lease. I had always assumed I was on it. After all, I had paid the rent every month for years. But when I looked at the document in detail, my name wasn't even on the lease. Not a single mention of me. Donna had never added me as a tenant. She had locked me into a financial relationship without ever allowing me to have any legal claim to the property. It was all a game to her. My chest tightened. I was no better than an employee, expected to pay bills but never allowed to share in the benefits. And yet, I had never questioned it. I had always believed that as long as I was helping them, I was doing the right thing. That was the weight of guilt she had placed on me. But now, in the cold light of reality, I saw the truth. I had been exploited. The feeling of betrayal gnawed at me. They had taken so much from me. My time, my money, my future, without a second thought. And when I needed them to support my dreams, they were willing to sabotage everything. They didn't care about my future. They only cared about keeping me trapped in their toxic cycle. I had to act. I couldn't just sit back anymore. The first thing I did was send a letter to the utility companies. I drafted an official notice to terminate all the services I had been paying for. I wasn't responsible for them anymore, and it was time to cut those ties. My hands were shaking as I typed, but for the first time in years, I felt a sense of clarity. And then I started reviewing my bank transactions. I made a list of every expense I had paid for them. Their cars, the groceries, the vacations, all the things that had drained me. I was so tired of being their ATM. I couldn't keep living like this. The next day, I told Liam that I would no longer be paying for his car insurance. His reaction was exactly what I expected. A mix of disbelief and anger. He didn't understand why I was standing up for myself. "You're being dramatic, he said. "We're family. You can't just walk away from us." It was then that I realized the full extent of the emotional manipulation. They had conditioned me to believe I had no choice but to serve them. But no more. I wasn't going to be their servant anymore. I had to free myself. The next step was something I never thought I would do. I reached out to Aunt Fiona. Fiona had always been on the periphery of our family. My father's sister, the one Donna always kept at a distance. I never fully understood why until now. But Fiona had been the only one who had seen through Donna's facade, and I knew she would understand. "Fiona, I need your help," I said when I finally called her. I was shaking as I spoke, the weight of everything pressing down on me. "What's going on, Emily?" she asked, her voice concerned. "I found out the truth. About everything. Donna. She stole my inheritance, Fiona. She took it when I was a kid, and now she's ruined my life. I need to take her down." Fiona didn't hesitate. "I've been waiting for you to find out. Your father's trust fund. She took it all. And I've been holding onto the documents for years." The truth hit me like a brick wall. My father had set aside a trust fund for me, meant for my education, my future, my freedom. He had wanted me to be secure, to have the opportunities he never got. But Donna had emptied the account when I was just 14, using the money for her personal luxuries while I worked to pay off her debts. "What do I do now?" I asked Fiona, feeling both the weight of the betrayal and the flicker of hope. "I'll send you the papers. The ones that prove she took the money. You can take legal action, Emily. It's time for you to fight back." The next few days were a blur. I carefully reviewed the trust fund documents, the bank records, and the forged signatures that Donna had used to steal my inheritance. It was all there, clear as day. Fiona had kept copies of everything. I knew that confronting Donna and Liam would be difficult, but there was no turning back now. One night, as they both sat in the living room, I walked in and placed the documents on the coffee table. "You two have a lot to answer for," I said, my voice steady. I wasn't the same person who had walked into this house months ago. "What is this?" Donna asked, trying to appear unfazed. But I could see the fear in her eyes. I opened the folder and laid out the evidence. "This is proof of what you've done to me. You stole my future, Donna. You stole everything my father left for me. And now it's time to face the consequences." Liam's face contorted with confusion. "You're crazy, Em. None of this makes sense." But I wasn't crazy. I had every right to be angry, every right to claim what was mine. "You can't hide the truth forever," I told them. "You've taken so much from me, but now I'm taking back what's mine." And I did. I took the legal steps necessary to ensure that they would be held accountable. The trust fund was restored, and a case was opened against Donna. I didn't just get my inheritance back. I got something more important: my independence. I wasn't their pawn anymore. The next few weeks were filled with legal battles and finalizing paperwork. But the most important part was what I did for myself. I moved out. For the first time in years, I wasn't financially bound to them. I could breathe, and I could build the life I had always dreamed of. I used my inheritance to get myself to New York. The job at Marshall and Reed International was everything I'd hoped for. But it wasn't just about the job, it was about starting over. And when I stepped off the plane in New York, I felt like I was finally stepping into my own life. One that wasn't controlled by guilt, manipulation, or toxic family ties. I had the life I deserved, and I would never let anyone, especially not my family, take that away from me again. The hardest part wasn't leaving them behind, it was realizing I had to. Sometimes, the people who claim to love you the most are the ones who hold you back the hardest. And sometimes, you have to break free from the illusion of family in order to find yourself. Because in the end, you have to choose yourself. And that's exactly what I did. So, what do you think? Was Emily right to stand up for herself and reclaim her life? Or did she go too far? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment with your feelings, reflections, or even your own stories of empowerment. Don't forget to hit that like button if you found this story inspiring, and subscribe to stay tuned for more. The next chapter is just around the corner, and you won't want to miss it. Thanks for sticking with me through this journey. Your support means the world. Until next time, take control of your own story.